Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hey, happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop. Nielson and Hus back with you once again. And as always, The Lock Shop today and every day brought to you by wonderful partners over at Coolbet Canada. If you're not yet signed up for an account today, use the code LOCKSHOP when you do. Give us a sub on our YouTube channel. We're almost at 600 subscribers. When we hit 1,000, we're going to give away $1,000 cash. If you're watching on Twitter, you're listening to the podcast, make sure you go and sub on YouTube at Lock Shop Bets. Well, so Super Bowl's behind us, wrapped up a pretty good year in the NFL, and then started the week hot on the ice last night, Huss.
A perfect 4-0 sweep for the Lock Shop boys, and there's nothing that makes me smile larger than when the tweets start coming in that everyone that was riding is cashing their tickets. And we've got to give a shout out to Riley and UChat. A special shout out to UChat.
Especially
He's
UChat.
the one that pointed out live on the program from the YouTube chat what a 4-gamer combining all 4 of our picks was. But anyways, we came in and Lincoln Louie, who's a Winnipeg guy here, got in on as well. So that was nice. The funny thing about it is the only thing that didn't hit was my Oilers in regulation. I threw that out on the daily pick, which was funny because that was like minus 143. Both of my picks yesterday in the Lock Shop were plus money, and they both came in. But anyways, we won't complain. It was a great day yesterday, and we'll try and keep it going today for our second episode of the week. And I will get into some Scotties picks a little later on because the event begins tomorrow out west in BC. Cannot wait for that, and we're a couple weeks away from the Brier. So for those of you like me that spend a lot of time watching TSN over this past month, you can get in on it before some great futures options. Actually, our boy Hot Dog does a heck of a job over at Coolbet setting a myriad of options for your.
Okay, well, say that again. Boy Hot Dog?
Hot Dog. Well, Hot Dog is the curling bookmaker for Coolbet.
Oh, okay. Like the nickname, or
sure.
like I don't know this.
No, his parents named him Hot Dog.
Yeah, right.
Of course, it's a nickname.
Well, I don't know. I was trying to figure out exactly what was going on.
Yeah, I'll have to find out his Twitter, but yes, it is Hot Dog, former player, and I follow him. He's got some good insights, but I know he's been hard at work setting up the board for the Scotties. And they do have right now, you can get in on the futures for the Brier as well. We'll focus that on in a couple weeks once the ladies are done.
Neither of us are on the Jets tonight. Tell me a bit about this Jets game tonight.
Well, listen, the Jets have been playing pretty well. 3 wins in a row. They played Chicago coming out of the break and Seattle. The Seattle game was really good, though. That was Tuesday night. I went basically straight there after coming back from Vegas. And listen, they controlled the game. They controlled the play. Seattle doing what they've done all year, got it to overtime and hung in there. Jets ended up winning in a shootout. I like the Jets today. I mean, here's the other thing. I mean, we've got like the slate tonight when you look at the games there's some real big favorites. I mean,
yeah, there is.
The list. I mean,
but Toronto last night, didn't Toronto close at some places at like minus 600?
It was 556 when I checked on it.
I think I saw one of the guys tweet out, not one of our Coolbet guys, but I think somewhere it was minus 600 last night.
Well, you combine a mismatch with the most public team around, and that's what you get. Their puck line on Coolbet was like even money at minus 2.5. And they ended up
even money at 2.5. They covered it too.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a 2.5 on the board tonight with the Canes against the Montreal Canadiens. 2.5 puck line at plus 105. But back to the Jets. I mean, the Jets have been in a bit of a slump. Morrissey saved the day at the final game going into the break. They've now actually won 3 in a row. I do like them tonight. I mean, I've sort of banned myself from picking them in the lock shop because it always seems to mush them. But I will say this. I mean, they're starting off a 4-game road trip. This is certainly of the 4 games, the one that you would expect them to get against a pretty weak Columbus team that, was going nowhere this season. And the Jets probably do feel a little bit of payback. When I was coming back from Doha on that Friday, the Jets hosted Columbus. They were playing well and just had one of the biggest stinkers of the entire season. I mean, they've already won 20 games at home. They're 20-8 on home ice. That was probably one of the worst games all year. This is the second matchup. I'm sure Laine will be up for this game. We'll see what we get out of Dubois. He was a real impactful player in the game on Tuesday night. So Jets have been the one thing the Jets have done a pretty damn good job at all year is beating teams well below them in the standings, albeit it didn't happen on home ice against Columbus earlier. I do like them to get one tonight. Interesting shot prop in this game. I was kind of considering that for the daily pick, but went a different way. Kyle Connor over 3.5 shots, and he's been held under that the last couple of games. That doesn't happen very often. Wouldn't at all be surprised if KFC was shooting the puck quite a bit. Don't mind that at all. Over 3.5 shots at even money tonight for a Jet prop at the in Coolbet.
If you're looking for a player prop sprinkle, there's one for you. We hit the over 3.5 shots by Connor McDavid last night in the lock shop as well.
By the way, on that, like I'm watching this game. It was a pretty fun game. I mean, Jack Campbell could have mixed in a save or two in the first couple periods, which would have been nice, and maybe they wouldn't have had to go to overtime. But I was checking your shot prop, and midway through the third period, he still only had 3. And then I checked 5 minutes later, and he had 7.
Yeah, he put a few pucks on net there in the third period. Yeah, which is why, I mean, it's such a nice bet to toss into parlays, man, because it's not 13 of 15 games he's had more than 3.5 shots on goal. So it's a nice one to do, that's for sure, and worked well with that Rangers money line last night. Canucks put up a decent fight in that game. Hush, Gary Bettman and everybody talks about a lot of parity in the National Hockey League, but I don't remember many years where you're seeing like -2.5 puck lines being set in a lot of places. There's a lot of lopsided matchups this year, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, that's why the standings are bullshit. I mean, it's the fake parity that the 3-point games or the loser point, whatever you want to call it, gives. You can be 4 or 5 points out of a playoff spot and it looks very doable. And then you do the math on it and realize that, you may as well be, you're way, way back. I mean, it takes so much to make up ground on teams. And this is very key for one of my picks tonight. What an urgent situation one of the teams on my card is. Listen, I've been talking about this for over a decade. I love the way they do overtime. I love a shootout a hell of a lot more than walking out after a tie.
With a tie, yeah.
But every one of these regulation wins should be 3 points. And yes, you'd have a far bigger gap. The standings might look like there's more room. But the other thing is that it would make the games better. The intensity, like 90 seconds left in the game on Tuesday here between Winnipeg and Kraken. Both are in the playoffs right now. Both are in a pretty good situation. There was no urgency from either team to score a goal in the last 90 seconds. To go get those
3 points, yeah.
Absolutely not. The divisional games, if you had 3-point games, the third periods, late in the third, would be the entertainment value, I think, would be way better. As I said, I've talked about this for years. They're not listening. So as of right now, we've got teams, we've got games, standings that look really close. And then you look at the real numbers, the odds, where there's money involved, and you see how lopsided some of these matchups are.
It's funny we talk about it, how hard, the Oilers just went a month with one regulation loss and still can't get up beyond third or fourth they've tightened it, but this is a team that just went on a run where they lost one game in regulation, and yeah, they were about 4 or 5 points behind, but now they're still 1 or 2 points behind. You go near perfect for a month and you gain 3 or 4 points in the division standings, which is tough to do. I understand where you're coming from on that discussion.
Yeah, I just think that the actual quality of the games would be affected. I don't think you'd have teams just pass into each other in the final 2 minutes to make sure they get their single point and then take their chances in overtime and shootouts. And I really do think that for all the quote-unquote false parity, take a team like St. Louis. St. Louis right now is sitting there at 53 points. They're 8 points back. If you had the 3-point games, it might be 10 or 11 or 12. But then if you have the opportunity to make up 3 points in head-to-head matchups, I mean, I think it makes too much sense. We see that used in international hockey, European hockey. For whatever reason, it's not the case. But I don't think Gary Bettman's changing that anytime soon. He has he's resisted all challenges the way that it is. And I guess from his perspective, the season's too long as it is when you're cranking out 82 games and expecting people to show up for 41 in home markets. Even if it's a fallacy, you'd rather let them think when they look at the standings, they've got a better chance to be there.
All right, like we said, big time Scotties preview coming from Hus today here in the Lock Shop. But let's dive into it. NHL tonight, Hus, and I think I see the team that you're thinking is very desperate for a dub tonight. So lay out those 2 picks for me. What do you got?
Yeah, well, let's start off with the Florida Panthers, and I'm going to throw this in on the daily pick, I think, at Cool Bet as well. Like, the Panthers right now are 3 games above 500. They've got 60 points in 57 games. If you look at the conference standings, they sit 10th. They are 1 game behind the New York Islanders, who have 61 points in 57 games. And they're going up against the Washington Capitals, which they could actually tie tonight with a win, although the Caps would still have a game in hand. Pittsburgh's in a much better situation. I mean, they're only 1 point clear, but they've got the 3 extra games in hand. So assume that that's 3 or 4 extra points. So, I mean, I really look at this, and you've got Buffalo, Florida, the Islanders, and the Caps battling for that 8th spot. Florida just got their asses handed to them by the St. Louis Blues of all teams, who pretty much put up the white flag on the season. So I think not only do they have to bounce back, this is a playoff game for the Florida Panthers. I mean, I could make an argument, and it probably would be overstepping reality, but if they lose this game, you can stick a fork in them. There's enough hockey left that's not the case. But you've got a limited amount of opportunities playing head to head against those teams that you're chasing. They're doing it without Ovechkin, who's missing another game tonight after his father passed away. So they got to have this one tonight. And to be honest, going into the game against St. Louis, they've been playing quite well as of late. I mean, they had closed the gap a little bit. So, and we can't forget about Buffalo, who's only 2 points back.
Yeah, they're right there. Yep.
And have 4 games in hand as well. So Florida, they should be one of the most desperate teams in the NHL right now. Take advantage of the opportunity on the schedule to play Washington without Ovi, get that 2 points, and get a win. And as you can tell, I mean, they're a road favorite in a game like this. So I think it speaks to the situation that they're in. The other game that I'm going to go with is Vegas against San Jose. And Vegas has really turned it around as of late. They've plowed teams, scoring 7, 5, and 5 in their last 3 games and winning by 4, 4, and 5 goals. And then you look at their opponents, the San Jose Sharks, who haven't been terrible lately. I mean, they did beat Washington on the road a couple games ago. They just lost to Pittsburgh at home. And before that, had a loss to the Panthers, win against Tampa, win against Pittsburgh, and then 4 straight losses, including losses to the Wings and the Blue Jackets. To me, they're just these teams are 2 different levels of quality. Aiden Hill's back in net tonight. He's been strong with Logan Thompson out right now. So I just see the Vegas Golden Knights keeping this thing rolling. There's been a lot of puck line winners lately. And frankly, if you want to get a half decent number, you almost need to go to a puck line tonight, or at least a win in regulation. But considering how much they've been scoring lately, I'll go with the puck line. I'll take the plus 130 on the Vegas Golden Knights for my other selection on the ice.
Yeah, and I'm going to play just a little bit safer with Vegas because I'm just kind of building a 3-game parlay here. So I'm going to take Vegas money line for all the reasons you just laid out here. Vegas money line minus 181. And then the other 2 games are going to go to, I actually adjusted this number in the Boston-Nashville game. It's 5.5 right now. I moved it up to 6.5. Looks like, and I saw it was unconfirmed. I was looking over at Daily Faceoff for starting goalies, but I think it's going to be UC Saros versus Allmark tonight. So that's an excellent battle between the pipes. So felt pretty good bumping that number up to 6.5 and taking the under, even if it does end up being a 4-2 game. You're going to be okay there. And then I went Calgary in regulation at home tonight. Detroit, second half of a back-to-back. Detroit, maybe they're streaking. Maybe they're turning it around. Maybe they're going to be a little fat and happy. The Wings have won 4 in a row. Got outshot 2-1 by the Oilers last night. As you said, you watch a good chunk of that game. I mean, if Jack Campbell doesn't allow 2 bad goals in the first half of the hockey game, the Oilers probably cruise to a victory. They didn't last night. Detroit, a little bit of extra time, obviously, in that game. Could be a little bit of an emotional letdown. You're not going to run back Ville Husso again tonight, who was pretty good last night as well. And Calgary is one of these teams that are in a desperate spot here, fighting for a wild card right now, let alone a spot in the Pacific Division playoffs. So I like Calgary here snapping the Red Wings 4-game winning streak. All 4 of those wins, by the way, from the Wings against the Pacific Division. So they have had some success against the division here recently, and Calgary as well. But I do think Calgary gets this one here in regulation tonight, minus 152. So Calgary against Detroit, second half of back-to-back at minus 152. Boston, Nashville bumped up to 6.5, and then on the under at minus 156, and then rolling with Hus here on this Vegas play tonight. I'll just take it money line because I'm going to throw it in a parlay, and that 3-game parlay would pay plus 322 tonight.
Yeah, if you do want to take this in a different way for the Vegas game, I mean, I've got the minus 1.5 at plus 130. You got the money line at minus 181. If you do just want to take them to win in regulation, not a bad number at minus 115 as well. But man, considering the way they've been lighting the lamp lately, and San Jose, I think is just waiting for their GM to let everyone know who's been traded. I think it's a pretty good spot here. And as I say, just as far as if you're looking at the Jet game tonight, the Jets are minus 190 right now on the money line, and a puck line of plus 134. But as I mentioned, that shot prop for Kyle Connor is looking pretty good at even money at over 3.5. And of course, you got player points, player goals, assists, a whole bunch of options for pretty much all these games if you don't want to lay any big favorites and feeling a little queasy about some underdogs.
YouTube chat just confirming that it will be Swayman. Yeah, there it is. I just refreshed the page. It was confirmed 10 minutes ago. So it'll be Swayman versus UC Saros. Doesn't change my opinion on the under 6.5 in that game. Bruins are good no matter who's in between the pipes. So let's go Boston, Nashville. Under 6.5 there. Hus, I didn't build a board for your Scotties picks because you got a lot of Scotties picks. So I'm going to sit back and let the foremost leader in curling betting in this country lay it out for the Scotties.
All right, let me just pull up the board here, folks. And as I mentioned, Hot Dog and the guys have been very busy getting me ready for the Scotties right now. All sorts of great options for it. Obviously, you can bet the winner, but there's also top 2, top 3, and top 4 markets for all of the teams. The teams will be in 9-team groups for the initial round robin. You've got winners in Group A and Group B. There is to qualify to move out to be one of the top 3 teams and move into that championship round options as well. And then a whole bunch of wild sort of props that we'd have to get someone smarter than me about this. But basically over-unders on the cumulative percentage after pool play of each position in the tournament. I will stay away from those. I'll be honest, I don't understand that well enough. And then there's also totals on every team in the event as to how many wins they'll have in that round robin right now. So I'm going to hit on some of the teams that obviously we expect to be there at the end. But if there's a team or two that you've got a feeling on, you can just go there and bet them for their performance in the round robin as well. All right, so let's start it off. Of course, Carey Anderson, Team Canada, going for a historic 4th straight Scotties win. They are the favorite at plus 140. And Rachel Homan's squad with Tracy Fleury, of course, Fleury, who came up short with that final shot to make the Olympics, and Jen Jones ended up going. They've sort of put together a bit of a super team, but they're not the favorites in this, although Ontario is a clear second at plus 215. Caitlin Laws had a strong season with her revamped team, along with Laura Walker, who last year was skipping Alberta. They're the 3rd-ranked team at plus 605. And then the queen herself, Jen Jones, along with the Zacharias sisters with that new look team representing Manitoba after winning a couple weeks ago. They are at plus 770. So those are the 4 teams that have odds to win it at less than 10-1. And listen, it's pretty hard for me not to lean towards Carey Anderson again. I think it's highly likely. I'm going to give you a different matchup for the final, but that's another thing. You can bet the exact teams to meet in the final as well.
Oh,
And I
like
wouldn't be
that.
surprised if there is a ton of action on Canada versus Ontario, which is at plus 280, which actually wouldn't be too bad. These are clearly the top two teams, certainly by odds, and you're getting just about 3-1 if we get the final that we're expecting. What a final that would be. That being said, Carrie Anderson owns the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, and I think that they really want to etch themselves amongst the greatest teams ever to do it right now. And they've been through this before. There's no questions as to whether they can get this done. And with all the changes to the other teams, the one team that hasn't changed, the Anderson rink, they're ready to go. I think I still have to take them to win the event, even though I would have loved a better number. They're at plus 140. And certainly, as I mentioned, Homan just above 2-1 is the next best one. I think both of these teams win their groups, though. I mean, I think once you get into the round robin, there may be a loss here or there for both teams. It wouldn't be surprise me if either of the team ran the table, though, to be honest. So Canada to win their group is minus 141, and Ontario to win Group B is minus 105. I do like Jen Jones' chances of making noise come playoff time, and I do certainly think that Manitoba will qualify and will be part of the playoffs. So I am going to put a sprinkle down on an all-Manitoba final between Carrie Anderson's Canada rink and Jen Jones' Manitoba rink. That is paying $11.25. As I mentioned, if you do want to go the most likely final, certainly by the odds, still at a half-decent number, Canada versus Ontario is plus 280 to meet in the final. And they actually have exact results. I mean, if you think Rachel Homan is going to win and beat Anderson in the final, you can bet that in particular. I'd rather just make the pick, though, to see what teams get to the finals and then see what happens. We can bet that again later on. So Canada versus Ontario plus 280. I know a lot of people will like that. I'm going to go, though, Canada-Manitoba plus 11.25 for the final between Anderson and Jones. Manitoba's pool wins, it's interesting, only 5.5. They'll play 8 games. I think it's highly likely that Jen and her team win 6 games, and we're getting plus money on that at plus 123. So Manitoba pool wins over 5.5 at plus 123 is on the card. And I'll throw the same number, a very similar number, down on Rachel Homan's Ontario rink to get over 6.5 wins. So basically to go 7-1 or 8-0 in the round robin at plus 119. The thing about that group on the other side, the Group B, is that you've got Jen Jones in there at plus 330 to win. And then Scheidegger, and then really after Scheidegger, I mean, you don't have a lot of competition. There's 4 teams with massive numbers. I guess there's always a chance Northern Ontario, New Brunswick could win. And one of the great things about curling is that one bad shot can change everything. And you could have some big upsets. I don't see it happening, though. So I'm going to roll with Rachel Homan's Ontario rank to get over 6.5 wins at plus 119, looking for very impressive runs from those top 2 teams over in Pool B. As far as the tournament, I mean, I did mention I put a sprinkle on Jen Jones' rank, Manitoba, to get to the final, going up against Anderson at plus 11.25. We can get plus money on Manitoba, plus 105 to finish in the top 4. I certainly think they're able to do that. And Caitlin Law's team on the other side, I heard them referred to as diapers and draws, as she's a new mother and back at it. But she's got a really solid team. And I'm not sure that, they already won a couple times this year. They should be there again in the top 4. So Laws, even money to get into the top 4 as well. So I'm sort of focused on those top teams. 2 other teams that I do like to advance to the qualify from the pool play. Casey Scheidegger, who is the wild card number 2, they're at minus 139. And a really neat story of the Saskatchewan team to qualify from the pool play. That's who I'm going to go with. But the Saskatchewan rink has had Robin Silvernagel. They had a big emotional win in the Saskatchewan Scotties, in that, she'd gone in 19 and 20 and actually had to really step away from the game quite a bit over the last couple of years due to a premature birth of a child. And she, as she said, she spent a lot of time just doing the hospital life for the better part of a year. So it was emotional for her to get back. Obviously, it sounds like her son's doing a lot better and their family's in a better situation. And they've got a special perspective about the opportunity at hand. And again, once you get past those top two teams, I think you're looking at the team that, has a little bit of momentum, has some experience, which she has before. So I think there's some value there on Saskatchewan to qualify from pool play at plus 245. Those are my favorite picks. I really do think we're going to be speaking about the usual suspects by the time we get to the weekend. Anderson, Holman, Jones, Laws. I like those to be the final four teams, to be honest, in the top four, and you can bet those all. But I'm dreaming about an all-Manitoba final. We'll put a sprinkle on that at 11:25. The Jones rink is such a great story. She's, the skip, but you have these young ladies, the Zacharias girls and the rest of their team that, had won the juniors before and had gone to juniors. Last year had won Manitoba. It's really neat. We're going to see all these women come the following weekend right now. So let's get it on tomorrow in Kelowna with the Scotties. And we should remind you, these are just futures for the entire tournament. The first two draws are already up right now. And again, often you'll be looking at ridiculously large single matches for the games. Like, for instance, Canada is a minus 1,000 favorite against Quebec.
Yeah.
But the rock line, the spread for these matchups is also available, as well as totals, over and under. We'll see who's scoring the big points. You can get in on that. I'll have some parlays next week and maybe even throw a little Scotties into the daily pick here and there. But get your futures in before the first rocks get thrown tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Winnipeg time. I guess that's 7 o'clock Alberta time, 9 o'clock Eastern time. Wherever you're watching, get them in before tomorrow night.
Nobody does it better, buddy. Nobody does it better than breaking down the Scotties. I learned so much just sitting here listening to you about it. I absolutely love it. So hopefully we can cash.
Here's a quick plug on this too. Ted Wyman, our good friend from the Winnipeg Sun.
Great dude.
Yeah, great. Absolutely great dude. And he's sort of Post Media's national curling reporter. He is going to join me today, coming up just under an hour away, about 1:25 Winnipeg time on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and we're going to get Ted's thoughts on this event. I have a feeling he'll be with me on a bunch of the favorites. It'll be interesting to get his perspective on maybe there's another team that I'm missing that might have the opportunity to qualify into the round, or we can kind of isolate on some individual matchups. So it'll be good. We're going to talk some CFL and curling with Ted before we get ready for the Jets and Columbus Blue Jackets tonight.
Beauty. I am traveling tomorrow, and it's a long weekend, so the Lock Shop will be back next week with 3 episodes talking hockey. We'll have some XFL action by then, so we'll be able to start betting on football again after a brief little delay, which is excellent news as well, Hus. That's going to be fun.
Hey, speaking of XFL, does it start this weekend?
I think it starts this weekend, but I could be wrong.
Oh my God, we've got a full slate of games.
Listen, look, I know we'll bet on anything in the Lock Shop, but betting on week 1 of XFL, I think I'd rather watch for a week and then have something to actually take into account, right? Like,
Lock Shoppers, just allow me this. Can we just at least quickly hit the lines for week 1 of the NFL?
Yes, we can hit the lines. Of course we can hit the lines.
Here we go, everyone. Opening game, the Tampa Bay Vipers against the Dallas Renegades. Dallas, a 3-point home favorite at minus 114, minus 159 on the money line. Oh, man, I guess they're not expecting these games to be very good. The over-under in all of the games is either 36 or 37.
Seriously? Wow.
Yeah, and again, most of these, I think you're basically just taking the home teams are slight favorites. Houston Roughnecks against the Orlando Guardians. Interestingly enough, though, the St. Louis Battlehawks, I believe they won last time. That was the most supported team in the XFL. They're the one road favorite this week, minus 2.5 in San Antonio to take on the Brahmas. And then the Seattle Dragons, plus 1.5 in DC to take on the Defenders. The XFL is back. Oh, I'm fired up for this. Game's at 2 o'clock and 7:30 on Saturday, and 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And I imagine these games will be on TV, right? We'll be able to find them.
I mean, they got to be somewhere. I don't think The Rock is going to deliver the XFL back with no
Yeah.
TV coverage. So, yeah.
Well, pay attention to the Cool Bet Daily Pick tomorrow. I might mix in a curling XFL parlay.
Oh, God. We got to have it. We got to have it. All right. Enjoy that. Huss, have a good weekend, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
You got it, man.